It's been a few years since Scarlet and Violet came out, and it's probably one of the longest runtimes a Pokémon game has had thus far. Remember, the game itself came out back in November 2022. Everyone was still waking up from the nightmare of the past few years. Then, once people finally started waking up, Game Freak decided to bomb us with this piece of shit. And everyone realized that the past few years weren't a nightmare. No, it was just the appetizer. Welcome to the Harley channel, where we do the randomest of shit and talk about the randomest of shit. So, with the main course finally being served in a mediocre game, how about I bring you the pièce de résistance myself? The good, the bad, and the ugly of Scarlet and Violet. This is going to be a critique type essay video, and every brain fart that I have will be in the script, so get ready for a lot of moronic, unhinged and absolute breathtaking takes. Just a quick reminder, breathing is free, so keep doing it because I'll charge you for choking. Somewhere in 2022, we got a trailer for a new Pokémon region, also known as Paldea, with the corresponding games being named Scarlet and Violet. It was supposed to be the first open-world Pokémon game added to the main series. For those bitches who want to commit arson by setting me on fire right now, no, Legends Arceus is a spin-off, and thus not the first open-world game for the main series. The additions and mechanics are different enough. Now shut the fuck up, put the lighter and your ass down, and listen to daddy. I've been less and less motivated by the newer Pokémon games. Alola was, in my opinion, the last genuinely good region we got. Generation 8 just sucks as a whole. The trailer for Scarlet Violet didn't really sit right with me at the time, you know? It looked off. Not because it's open world, not at all. I just think it's the graphics combined with the poor optimization. Yeah, hi, this is me after rewatching the trailer. I just said it's graphics and such, and after rewatching it, yes, it's the graphics and such. I realize we all have different opinions on these things, or perspectives to sound more intellectual. You see the glass as half full, another person sees it as half empty. I just see a glass of water, which means that you're gay. Anyway, the trailer came out and I was genuinely excited for a new game of Pokémon, but at the same time also very skeptical. The open world aesthetic we heard about later had sold me. This was because the last few generations really restricted the player to less and less areas to explore and focusing on more linear pathways or corridors. An open world sounded exactly like the thing Pokemon needed at the time. Now that we're in 2024, looking back at it, has it really changed all that much? Most areas are blocked off from the beginning with rivers, mountains, hills and challenges, meaning that if you wanted to get somewhere, you were going to need a ride. Koraidon or Miraidon? Koraidon honestly is the better design daddy of this generation, by the way. Actually, it's the best, and you will not make me think otherwise. Your ride Pokemon functions as your HM slave, and the more challenges you complete, the more it can do. From scaling walls, to flying, to swimming. You learn all that just by eating a sandwich, huh? Now I think about it somewhat more, the glitches and bugs in this game made sure that you could actually go anywhere you wanted anyway. For a Pokemon game, glitches are inherently tied to the name lately. But back then, I just didn't know it could get this bad. But before we go into the bad stuff, I want to go over the good stuff first. One of the things I can think about that I classify as good is the storylines, specifically Arven's, but that's because it got the most time to tell itself within the game. I almost cried during this part because it was very relatable to me at the time. Basically, he's preventing his dog from dying, which actually almost got me crying because my dog died from a heart tumor not too long before I got to that part during a stream. Okay, I'm actually tearing up a little here. It's not because of the storyline being this good, but it's just me relating to how my dog died last year. I had the same thing. Macho, wherever you are, buddy, I hope you're still getting all the belly rubs you want. But the other storylines don't really go anywhere. Sure, there's Nemona being an absolute oblivious unit and just wanting to battle you over and over again. Alright, we also got the Team Star bosses. It's an alright storyline, you know. Getting bullied, wanting to do something about it, realizing you're going too far, and then not doing it. Honestly, I would have loved to see the bullies getting run over by those Revavroom ding-dongs. But that's just me being homicidal. The storyline with the professor intrigued me most of all, which tied back to Arven. Honestly, he can't catch a break. His mom and dad died, his dog almost dies as well, the only thing he's got is you, a semi-mute friend. How old is he anyway? Wait, he's only 17? Let me get this straight. His mom and dad died due to an accident. They were never there for them when they were still alive. Then his dog almost dies, and yet he still smells at the end of all that. Forget what I said about Nemona being an oblivious unit. I think Arven takes that title. Here you go, King. Your crown. The Pokemon itself are also good. Well, just a handful of them. I already told you about the amount of times I nodded over Koraidon, but there's also other decent to great Pokemon in this region that I like. Skeledirge, Houndstone, and Low-Kicks, just to name a few. I know that Pokemon designs are highly subjective, that's why they're in this part of the script. Just because I don't like one or two designs doesn't mean that you should too. But if you do want my opinion on the worst offenders, it's Farigiraf and Mousehold. Fight me in the comments, bitches! I will die on this hill! Is this all the good stuff I have to say about Scarlet and Violet? Well... You really want to know what's bad about this game. There's a lot to talk about here, so much that I'm not even sure if I can name it all. Let's just start with the region itself. Paldea is an empty void within an empty void. The everlasting life has been sucked out of this region, and trust me, I know what that's like. I live with women. There's no such thing as culture within this region. All towns, despite Mesagoza, I can guarantee you, you will not be there for more than an hour. Nothing sticks out. Well, except Artisan, which is literally the only exception I can think of. Then again, the Mill Town from X and Y already did that shit. And trust me, they did a whole lot better there. Yes, there's a city up a snowy mountain, and yes, there's a city with a harbor. Yes, there's a city with big flashy buildings, and yes, there is a town where there's caves nearby. Problem is, there's nothing to do in those cities or towns. There's a gym building, which most likely is the only building you can enter that has an actual interior in it. They fucking got rid of going inside people's houses. Why? I have no clue. I didn't see any problems with doing that, aside from the, you know, committing crimes aspect. Hey look, I didn't say it was perfect. There are no NPCs telling you lore about the town or how it came to be, and if there is, there's not much incentive to talk to those people anyway. The underlying issue here is that everything you see in this region has been steamrolled on so much that nothing sticks out anymore. There is multiple ruins scattered around the region. All of them are in a different biome, but they all are the exact same texture and object rotated around and placed in a different way. The ruins also have no names, so when you're in the middle of the desert and you come across a ruin, you're like, oh cool, there used to be something here, I wonder what it is. And literally no one or nothing gives you an indication of what even remotely used to be here. What's the point of ruins if they don't have a story to tell? Look at the ruins of Alph, or the Solasian ruins for that matter. They have a story, although the last one is a little bit unknown to me. You want more examples? Fine. Have you heard about the 10 Signs of Paldea? I sure as hell didn't, until I talked to a sign near a waterfall that said Fury Falls. Even to this day, I don't know them all. I don't even think I can recite 2. There's a teacher that also tells you about it in school, but I'm a cool kid, so I don't care about that. Before I ramble on too long about this, I just want to say that an open world experience is nice, but if you beat literally everything to death that made the world so lively and cultured to begin with, you just have an open area of nothingness. It's like the Asado Desert, just sand with some rocks in it. That's how I feel about the whole of Paldea too. There's a region, and there's a culture. It just wasn't explored at all. Oh, the sweet, delicious irony. I also really dislike how they handled the gym leader and champion during the first round. After you pay another $35 for the DLC, you get to see their actual teams in action. They especially did Gita dirty with that fucking Go-Go and Everlock. Come on, you can do better than that. I know that the teams got a revamp in the DLC, but we're talking about the goddamn champion of Paldea here. She doesn't even throw out Glimora first, for fuck's sake! Which reminds me, the overall game wasn't hard at all. Sure, figuring out where you're supposed to go at first is kind of hard. Myself? I just used a map that someone else drew because of the simple fact that I went exploring everywhere. I know that's the whole point, but at least they could have given you a better indication of which challenge to take on next. There are indicators in the descriptions, but to be honest, saying, oh, this one is very easy and this one is very hard, only gives me information about the first and the last challenge, not all fucking 18 of them. If you think this is bad, just wait until you see the ugly section. Oh fuck, that's right now, isn't it? Well, let's just hope this sentence doesn't get cut midway through to make room for the next. If there's anything that Scarlet and Violet excels at, it's definitely the bugs and glitches category. By the way, Game Freak, excelling in that isn't a good thing. I don't know how you're simultaneously the most profitable media franchise of all time and still are able to make games that are consistently good at being PowerPoint presentations. Especially in the open areas. The game runs terrible, and when I say that, I'm being easy on it too. You've experienced it by now, and you've also seen it in the video. Which reminds me, if you're still here, comment down below what your experience was with this game. When the game came out, we had entire channels dedicated to making Pokémon Scarlet Violet bugs and glitches compilations. They got hundreds of thousands of views too. Some bugs are generally funny, others are fucking terrifying. But you're not here to watch these videos all over again. Hell no. You're here for my personal experience. So how was my experience? Well, the game shut down twice. And the first time I didn't even have autosave on, because I remembered what happened back in Sword and Shield with the autosave, which had a major glitch before it was patched. For the first few hours I played, everyone was black due to a shading issue. When they say we want more diversity and inclusivity in our games, I don't think they meant make everyone black, right? Me? I'm more of a race swapping kind of guy. Just look at these for example. Christian Bale or Ryan Gosling as Obama? Count me in. Mark Wahlberg playing Muhammad Ali? Why not? Ryan Gosling playing MLK? I'm about to bust a nut right here and now. That's fucking hot, man. Back to the glitches. These are just the few bugs I have in my mind as of writing this. I'm sure if I watch back every second of my footage, I'll find much more stuff like this. But considering that I have a reputation of being lazy, I'd like to stick to that. Playlist is in the top right corner. Watch it for yourself. This reminds me. All of the games on the Switch needed a patch of some sort. Sword and Shield had this bug with the autosave feature, BDSP missed half the game, which was added through a patch, and Scarlet Violet also had certain glitches that were fixed with a patch at the very beginning, like the Elite Four music looping on the first few seconds. So you're telling me we got a patch for that, but not a patch for this slideshow looking motherfucking sucking ass-licking piece of shit? The DLC for Scarlet Violet cost me 30 to 35 bucks, which was somewhat more expensive than the Gen 8 ones. But those had to be bought separately. So if you're an idiot like me and you thought it was one pass for both games, you buy the Sword Pass while your Pokemon game clearly says Shield on it. I didn't know that was a thing and I didn't need to know that either. Yet it's a thing and it's fucking disgusting too. The reason why I put the DLC separately is because I think it deserves its own section, in case you're curious. To me, the Kitakami DLC was more setup rather than anything else. I'm not a big fan of the first part whatsoever. It feels like throwing a garbage can into a bigger garbage can. What's the point? Why would you separate this DLC? Well, like I said, it's setting up the stakes for the second DLC. You beat Kieran into submission while saying you're not the main character, bitch, and his annoyance with you increases over the course of the storyline. In the second DLC, the Underwater Dome one, I actually had to look up the name here, it's Blueberry Academy. No, it's not a hard name, it's just forgettable. Right, that's what both DLC areas are. Forgettable. Trust me, just give it a few years until Gen 11 comes around. You won't remember them. Where was I? Oh yeah, in the second DLC everything comes to a conclusion with Kieran finally realizing that he's not the main character, even though he needed 2 legendaries denying him to show him that. If you really want to know how I feel about the DLC overall, it's nice to have extra content in games, but when it comes to Pokemon, prior to Gen 8 we never needed DLC because the game was filled to the brim with content, even post-game. The DLC we got for Scarlet Violet feels like the post-game we used to get for free in games such as Platinum or Black and White 2. All that Pokemon is doing right now is stripping the game from content, much like the post-game, and adding it behind a paywall. In the end, you get a complete Pokemon game for around 90 to 100 bucks, while you used to get it for 40 bucks before we started moving to the Switch. Ever since X and Y, the developers have started removing post-game things. This is why I have no reason or intention in coming back to the game. Post-game is crucial for a Pokemon game is replay value. The reason why people keep coming back to generations 4 and 5 is because it's worth replaying it, or to keep playing it after the main story, since you got stuff to do after beating the champion. What does Paldea have to offer without the DLC? There's not even a fucking Battle Tower variant anymore. At least Sword and Shield had that going for it. Sure, you can come up with some ideas yourself, like catching them all or start shiny hunting or something. If you take a look at Black and White 2 and the things you could do post-game, well, I'm just going to put the list on screen for you so you can read it yourself. This is just what I came up with from the top of my mind as well. I'm sure there's plenty more to do. Now, what does Paldea have to offer after beating the champion? Yeah, exactly. Most of what you just named is in the DLC, behind another paywall. I think I've said everything I wanted to say. Overall, I would say that this game isn't shit, but it's held back by the performance issues and other stuff. What makes a Pokemon game good to me is the storyline and the arcs that are implemented for the characters. They went easy on the storylines, except for the twist at the end, which is unnecessarily harsh for one of the characters. But they did them right, so the story is okay. I strongly believe that Game Freak is able to make fantastic games. I've played Platinum, Black and White 2 and spin-offs like the Mystery Dungeon series. That last one wasn't made by Game Freak, I know that, but that's besides the point. They can make storylines for Pokemon that are intricate and interesting. They can make games that look breathtaking, but ever since the jump to the Switch, they lost the depth that made the earlier games so good to begin with. There is passion in Scarlet and Violet. You can feel the energy from the new mechanics, the Pokemon, the cutscenes. Everything. It just lacks depth. It feels lifeless, stiff, barren, desolate. I'd even say unpassionate or unoriginal, but the problem is, I can sense that there is passion and originality behind those new mechanics. They just didn't get the time to implement them properly. And I think that's where it goes wrong. Time. Since the jump to the Nintendo Switch, the teams had to adapt to new software and everything. Yet they're still doing everything that comes out within the same time frame as they usually did. That's why games like Scarlet and Violet feel so unpolished, because they never got the time to fix the broken stuff, or add the necessary details that they want to give it. That only leaves one question unanswered. Why did Scarlet Violet never get a patch for the bugs and glitches? To be honest, I don't have the answer to that question, and I don't think we ever will have an answer to that question. So how was dessert? Did you enjoy it? Then give this video a like, a comment, and give the channel a subscription while you're at it. It'll help me out a lot, and with every 10 likes, you'll help a little Turtwig like this out in my basement.